I cheated on my girlfriend. It's been 2 years since she left me, and I'm punishing myself by staying with my affair partner. I hate her. I'm Ryan, 29M, and I've been in a relationship with Lauren, 28F, for almost 2 years now. I don't expect anyone to feel sorry for me. I did this to myself. I used to blame everyone else for my problems, used to be controlling, and honestly, used to be a sleazeball. Some people probably still think I am all those things, and maybe they're right. But I've been trying not to be that way anymore. It took me a long time to realize that I was the source of my own problems. To give you some context, I used to pull some really shady crap. That's actually how I met Jenna, 23F now, but she was 18 when we first met. I was 24, 2 years out of college. I'd done well with girls in college, racking up a decent body count, but after college, I wasn't ready for anything serious, and dating became harder. I had a good job, and I'm not bad looking, so it wasn't that I couldn't get dates. I just kept getting dumped or ghosted. I was immature, and I get that now. The women my age were looking for more. Someone who didn't get trashed every weekend, play video games all day, or only pay attention to them when he wanted sex. Since I couldn't handle dating women my age, I started going after younger girls. I'm not proud of it, but I used to tag along with my younger brother to parties. He was a freshman in college, so I'd usually just hit up his college parties. But one night, he was going to a party in another town, which ended up being a high school party. I went along, and that's where I met Jenna. It was May, and she was only a couple of weeks from graduating. Not that that makes it any better. She was absolutely gorgeous, and still is. We hit it off right away, and I got her snap that night. She was heading to the local university in the fall, and I lived close to campus, so we spent most of that summer together. I realized I was falling for her, and my way of showing it was by becoming more jealous and controlling. It was all pretty manipulative. Whenever she wanted to go to a party or club with her friends, and I knew there'd be guys around, I'd do something big like get us concert tickets or plan a weekend trip so she wouldn't go. When that didn't work, I'd start accusing her of things or playing the victim to ruin her mood. If I couldn't stop her from going, I'd insert myself into her plans. It was all about my jealousy and insecurity. By the time her junior year rolled around, I convinced her to move in with me. I made it seem like it was the best financial move for her. But really, it was all about control. I had her in a tough spot. She was basically acting as my housekeeper, and I used her financial dependence against her. Sure, I spoiled her with gifts and luxuries, but she wasn't really the kind of girl who needed or wanted all that. When I started working at my current job, there was a woman there named Olivia who was in an open relationship. She was older, and I used to eavesdrop on her conversations with coworkers. Olivia was super open about her lifestyle and didn't hide anything. I used to tell Jenna about it because I thought it was wild. Back then, I never would have gone for something like that. The idea of sharing Jenna with someone else was insane to me. But then I met Lauren. We started flirting from day one, and it only escalated from there. After about a week, she asked her husband for an open relationship because we both wanted to hook up but didn't want to lose our partners. It took me a lot longer to bring it up with Jenna. Their open relationship wasn't working, and they were moving towards swinging instead. Of course, I lied to Jenna and told her that Lauren's open relationship had been a success and that we should try something similar. The stupidest part was that I wasn't even willing to share Jenna. The thought of her being with another guy made me furious, which made the whole swinging idea even more ridiculous. I just wanted to sleep with Lauren and was willing to go through this whole insane charade to make it happen. Lauren was too. She didn't have much respect for Logan. She thought he was a pushover. When Logan was about to leave her over the open relationship she forced on him, she had to backtrack and push for swinging as a way to keep control over him. She thought it would bring him back under her thumb. I know this because she told me straight up. She was so mad that he was ready to walk out that she became determined to break him. In the process of making all this happen, we completely ignored Jenna and Logan's feelings. We disregarded all their requests for time, space, communication, and clarity. We gaslit them, pushed them, and gave them false reassurances. I feel like such a piece of crap for what I put Jenna through, and honestly, Logan didn't deserve it either. In the end, Lauren and I got what we wanted, permission to do what we wanted, and we paid the price for it. We were so delusional. We genuinely thought we could have our fun, and that Jenna and Logan wouldn't do anything about it. Neither of us wanted them to be with anyone else. We were essentially making rules for thee, but not for me. Our real goal was to have each other, while still keeping them around to focus on us. I remember Lauren and I discussing how we didn't actually think Jenna or Logan would go through with anything. And even if they did, we had this absurd plan to ask them to focus on us, like they'd somehow be okay with that. Then we made our plan. Olivia had mentioned to Lauren that she was hosting a house party in 2 weeks. Lauren had been confiding in her, getting advice about open relationships, and eventually about swinging. Lauren told me that this party could be our opportunity. She told Olivia about mine and Jenna's supposed interest in swinging, but it was only a half-truth. Olivia had already invited Lauren at that point to help get her and Logan's feet wet. Olivia then agreed to let us come as well. Lauren and I were thrilled to have a chance to make this happen. We had the vibe check, which, unbeknownst to us, was the beginning of our undoing. Turns out, Jenna and Logan had started talking behind our backs, more like comparing notes. They were already onto us. The day of the party, I was laser-focused on the goal. I couldn't see anything else, and I was doing everything I could to make it happen. At the same time, I was being a complete jerk. I ignored everything Jenna was trying to say. Once we arrived, we got a tour of the house, and then I immediately looked for a chance to take Lauren upstairs to one of the private rooms. She was more than willing to go. We completely ignored our partners, leaving Jenna and Logan standing there just watching us walk off. As an afterthought, I turned and told Jenna to come on, but honestly, I didn't care whether she did or not. When Lauren and I got into the room, we talked about how neither of them had followed us, and we were excited. We thought we had it all figured out, that we could do this and Jenna and Logan wouldn't do anything. That was the delusion. We had sex for about 20 to 25 minutes, lingered a bit afterward, talking and laughing, and then got dressed. I fully expected to find Jenna and Logan sitting in the living room, sulking. We'd even talked about how we would handle the damage control afterward, but when we went downstairs, they weren't there. We thought maybe they took off in Logan's car since he had the keys, but when we checked outside, both cars were still parked. Then we heard some noise coming from one of the rooms. Imagine my shock when I walked in and saw Jenna hooking up with other people and having sex with Logan. There were several people in the room all playing together. Lauren was just as stunned as I was. The fallout was immediate and brutal. We spent the entire drive home yelling at each other, and it didn't stop when we got home. Jenna called me out on every single thing I had done throughout our relationship. Meanwhile, Logan and Lauren were apparently going through the same kind of meltdown. Jenna left me the next morning. I was devastated. I became the perfect example of mess around and find out. Lauren called me about a week later, and this happened to be the day after Logan had served her with divorce papers. We had a brief conversation, but I was still trying to process losing Jenna. Lauren sounded cold during the call. It was weird. She wasn't angry or sad. She just seemed neutral, like we were discussing something as ordinary as paying the bills. I should have recognized that as a major red flag. I tried to move on, telling myself, it's her loss. What a joke. Jenna wasn't losing anything. She could do so much better than me. About a month later, I made a fake account and started stalking Jenna on social media to see what she was up to. That's when I realized she and Logan were now a couple. She'd posted photos from their outings and dates over the past month. The next week at work, Lauren, who had mostly ignored me since the party, started being flirty and friendly again. I called her out on it, and she asked if I had seen that Logan and Jenna were together now. She then asked if I wanted to meet up after work and invited me over for dinner. I agreed because at that point, I figured why not? Maybe I'd get laid again. She texted me shortly before I got to her apartment, telling me to just let myself in since she was still getting ready. When I walked in, she told me to relax for a bit, that she'd only be another minute. After about 10 minutes, I got a text from her asking me to come into her bedroom. When I walked in, there she was, standing at the foot of her bed. She immediately started seducing me, and from that point on, she was insatiable. She insisted that I stay the night, and she kept up that wild act well into the next day. As I was getting ready to leave that afternoon, she told me that she wanted us to give this a real shot. She said, "Our exes have moved on with each other, so we should do the same." She pointed out that we got along, had fun, and the sex was great, so why not? After the night she had just given me, I figured, sure, why not? I was all in. Things were good at first, but I could tell something was off. Lauren wanted to document and post everything we did together on social media. I don't just mean trips or fancy dinner dates, I mean everything. If I grabbed us Taco Bell after a long day, she'd turn it into this overly romantic post about how we just get each other or he's a mind reader. She always made it seem like we were the happiest couple on earth, which wasn't really the case. Sure, we were having a lot of sex, and she was always planning outings, but the conversations were shallow and the emotional support was non-existent. When my childhood cat passed away at 19, still living with my parents, I was understandably upset. I even got a little emotional at work that day, tearing up a bit. When I told Lauren later that evening, she was visibly uncomfortable. That night, she wanted to get takeout and make another post about it. But I was sad, struggling to even crack a smile. She got annoyed, saying, "It's just a cat." I told her I loved that cat. She rolled her eyes and said, "Look, just smile for the f***ing photo and stop talking about the cat. Do that, I'll take care of you and you can be sad the rest of the night, deal." Of course, I went along with it, but looking back, I should have walked out right then and never looked back. Things only got weirder from there. By this point, we'd been together for about 6 months. I knew Lauren was still constantly checking in on what Logan was doing. One day, she told me she had gotten a new phone. She explained that she read somewhere that everyone should have 2 phones, one for business and one for personal use. I could see that for public figures, but we weren't. We were just regular office workers. I let it slide because it wasn't worth the argument. That night, we had sex with every light in the room on, which was odd. Leaving the bedside lamp on wasn't unusual, but this time she had the overhead light on, the bathroom light, and another lamp. Afterward, she grabbed her new phone and told me to take a picture. She said she'd send it to me, but then she suddenly said, "Oops." I felt a wave of concern wash over me. She told me she accidentally sent the picture to Logan. I was furious. How do you accidentally send it to him? And why did she even have his number saved in her new phone? Even before the blow-up that followed the next day, I knew she'd sent that photo as some half-baked attempt to make Logan jealous. To his credit, he didn't take the bait at all. Instead, he sent back a video that drove her nuts. It started as a simple selfie video of him saying, "Got your pic, glad to see you're having fun. Anyway, Jenna says hi." Then the camera panned over, and there was Jenna, looking incredible in workout gear, cheerfully saying, "Hi, Maddie," which, by the way, Lauren absolutely hates being called Maddie. Then the camera panned back to Logan as he said, "We're having fun too," before showing they were at the entrance of Kings Island. He ended the video with, "I'm going to go ahead and block this number now. If you send me another picture like that, I'll go to the authorities. Bye." After that, things between Lauren and me started spiraling further. She became more and more insistent that we move in together. I didn't want to, but I was in a deep depression that I didn't even recognize at the time. I was stuck in this toxic cycle of self-hate. Eventually, I gave in and moved in with her. Lauren kept trying to project this image of us as the perfect couple to the world, but it was all a lie. I was miserable, but somehow, being alone in my apartment felt even worse, and that's how I ended up in the situation I'm in now. About 2 months after we moved in together, I saw on Jenna's social media that she and Logan had broken up. It seemed mutual and amicable. No real details were given. That was over a year ago, and they still seem to be friends. They interact on social media, comment on each other's posts, and wish each other happy birthdays. Logan even attended Jenna's graduation celebration with her friends and family. When I told Lauren about this, she completely changed. She was never the most loving partner, but she got even colder. About 2 weeks later, she came to me one night and said, "I want to be in an open relationship again. This isn't negotiable, and I don't want a bunch of stupid rules. What's the point if there are going to be 100 limitations? You can either be cool with it, make peace with it, or move on." At the time, I was so delusional that I actually thought this might be good for me. The truth was, I had let myself go. I wasn't working out much anymore, I was drinking heavily, and we ate out far too often. On the outside, I tried to maintain this tough, stoic front, but on the inside, I was falling apart. I had messed things up with Jenna, and now I was replacing that pain with self-destruction. So when Lauren came to me with her open relationship terms, I agreed. I told her I only wanted 2 rules: use protection every time, and no details unless one of us asked. She was perfectly fine with that. The very next day, which was a Friday, she went out after work and didn't come home until Saturday morning. When I asked where she'd been, she casually said, "With a guy." I don't know why, but it caught me off guard. It shouldn't have. I'm sure she had him lined up before she ever even asked me about being open. I just thought, okay, I can play this game too. I was wrong. This was never going to be an even playing field. Over the next 3 months, our relationship went to hell. She only wanted to sleep with me right after she'd been with someone else, which is embarrassing to admit, but I was still taking her up on it because otherwise, I wasn't getting anything. I didn't know if she was seeing multiple guys. I assumed she was, or just the same 1 or 2. Anytime I asked where she was going or where she'd been, she'd just respond, "With a guy." Meanwhile, I wasn't having any luck at all. My confidence was shot. I was struggling at work, still drinking, and no matter what I did, I couldn't get a match on any dating app to save my life. In a moment of desperation, I went back to doing shady stuff. I updated my profile with a picture from a few years ago when I was younger and fitter. I finally matched with a woman named Fiona, and for the first time in a long while, I felt a little excited. She was into polyamory and had a long-term partner named Anthony, but I thought maybe this could be something for me. We messaged for about 2 weeks. I wasn't totally honest with her. I made it seem like Lauren and I had this amazing connection, which couldn't have been further from the truth. When Fiona and I met for dinner, I could tell she was a bit skeptical. I didn't exactly match the picture I had posted. I tried to cover up the weight gain with the right clothes, but it was still pretty obvious. Despite that, we were having a nice conversation, and then she asked me what got me into open relationships. I chuckled weakly and said, "Lauren," but my voice faltered, and she picked up on it. Before I knew it, I started spilling everything, about how it all started, about Jenna. I wasn't super direct, but I said enough to kill the vibe. Fiona looked at me and said, "You don't really want to be doing this, do you?" I just shook my head. We talked for a bit longer and she told me, "You don't have to be what you don't want to be." I nodded. Then she paused and said something that hit me like a ton of bricks. "You can also be what you actually want to be." That moment felt like someone had dropped a weight on my chest. I offered to take her home, but she said she didn't need me to. She had already messaged Anthony to pick her up, and he was probably waiting outside. I paid the bill, thanked her for the evening, and left before she did. When I got home, I couldn't stop thinking about what she had said. It was true, I didn't like myself. I checked Jenna's socials, and right then, I saw that she had started a new relationship. All those familiar feelings of loss, jealousy, and self-pity came rushing back. I went to bed but couldn't sleep. Lauren rolled in at 2 a.m., clearly trying to initiate something, which was an obvious sign of where she'd been and what she'd done that night. But I wasn't interested and rejected her. She got a little irritated, but not much. She then said, "Wait, didn't you have a date tonight? How'd it go? Must have gone well if you don't want any." I said, "It went fine." Lauren, in her usual condescending way, asked, "Fine? Like you got laid fine? Or you got a second date fine?" I just replied, "I don't want to talk about it." But she wasn't letting it go. "Oh no," she said. "You had 2 rules, no details unless asked, and I'm asking." Begrudgingly, I told her, "Neither then. We won't be going out again, but it went fine." She laughed and made an L shape with her hand, mocking me. "I'm kidding. I had about the opposite night, so we even out." For the first time, I pressed for more details. "Yeah? What did you do then?" I asked. She didn't hesitate. "I ended up meeting with this couple I've been talking to. I hadn't ever had a threesome, but that changed tonight." I was floored. I'd asked her about doing something like that multiple times since we opened up, and she always told me she wasn't interested. So I called her out on it. Without missing a beat, she shot back, "When I said I wasn't interested, I meant I wasn't interested in doing that with you." That hit hard, and I just walked away. I headed to the kitchen, not wanting to hear another word. She didn't follow me, and I heard the shower turn on as I made my way to the couch. The next day, she went out for coffee with friends like nothing had happened. I stood in front of the mirror for what felt like 15 minutes, just staring at myself. I kept thinking about what Fiona had said, about how quickly Jenna moved on, and how miserable things had become with Lauren. I hated who I was looking at. That's when I decided to take Fiona's words to heart. I could be the person I wanted to be. That was just over a year ago now. I'm still living with Lauren, but everything has changed. I'm polite, I'm cordial, but I refuse to sleep with her. She's noticed and has been going out more often, probably with at least 2 full-time FWBs by now. But I don't care. I've been sober for a year and started hitting the gym again. Honestly, I'm in better shape now than I ever was. I've also thrown myself into work. I've been taking on extra responsibilities, pushing myself to tackle more difficult assignments, and getting noticed for it. I've set a long-term goal for myself, to one day become a VP. Therapy has been a game changer too. I've been attending bi-weekly sessions for the past year, working through my shame and confronting my own toxic behaviors. It's been tough, but I know it's going to pay off when I eventually start dating again. I haven't tried to pursue a relationship during this time. I needed to heal, and now I finally feel ready to move forward with my life. I haven't told Lauren any of this. I don't feel like I owe her anything. She's a cold, bitter person who uses others for her own gain. That might be the hardest pill to swallow. I've spent too long serving her just to keep the peace. But I'm done. I've lined up a new apartment and will be moving out this week. I'm just going to pack up and leave a note behind. I've also found a new job. A competitor was looking to fill a director position. While I didn't get that spot, they offered me an assistant director role, which came with a nice pay bump, so I accepted. I see this as a chance to grow. I'm going into it without any bitterness toward whoever got the director job. They'll be my direct boss, but I plan to focus on making myself as valuable as I can. This is long enough already, but I just wanted to share how excited I am to start this new chapter. For the first time in years, I'm actually happy with the person I see in the mirror. Wish me luck.